Hi there, Deborah Roth here from Spirited Living with another installation in my ongoing series of goddesses from around the world that I call your inner goddess team, because we all carry these powerful, divinely feminine archetypes and wisdom and qualities within us. And I this year I've been focusing more on goddesses that may not be so familiar to many of us, and absolutely loving it. I mean, I've gone through so many of the Greek and Roman goddesses, and the ones that are kind of in general knowledge. But these are so rich, and I'm having so much fun. The one that I will introduce you to today, and I got very, one of the websites that I found in my research had just the most beautiful rendition of her myth, of her mythology, of her background and her story. And I'll read pieces of it for you, excuse me, which I don't usually do, but I will include the website, the link to the website where I found this when it goes up on my YouTube channel on Thursday. Yeah, and so please check that out. If you want more information, like, comment here, give me some ideas for different goddesses, but make sure you check out my YouTube channel first, because I very likely have covered some of your favorites. So all that said, the goddess I'm introducing to you today, and I'm loving, can you see that kind of swirl in the background? It has this sort of watery thing the reflection of the sun coming through my window right now. And she is a water goddess. Her name is Bachué, I'm sorry. She's a Colombian indigenous goddess of fertility, of water. She's considered the mother of humanity. And to this day, her sanctuary on the lake that she rose from, Lake, let me make sure I get it right, Iguaque. There is a sanctuary there that has been ongoing and was revived in 1977, and then went under and just reopened in 2024, I think, 2 years ago. And after being closed for 4 years to renovate it. So let me tell you about her, so you know why you might want to go visit this place. Her name in the native language, in the Chibcha language of the Muisca religion in Colombia, means the one with the naked breast. And she is a mother goddess, and this is a time that you'll hear from her mythology why she's connected with fertility. And it's said that she emerged from the waters of this Iguaque lake with a baby in her arms at a time when there wasn't a whole lot on earth. And this baby grew to become her husband, and which happens in so many of these ancient myths. And they populated the earth together. And she received worship in a temple, and in that area that there is now still the sanctuary for her. They had many children. They taught their children agriculture and the worship of the gods. Although it's interesting, because of the gods of the Muisca tradition, she was kind of unique. There were, gods. There was one, I'm not even going to try and say some of these names. There was one that was considered the supreme being, the creator of light and earth, but he was remote and people didn't really connect with him so much. There was Sue, who was the god of the sun, Chia, who was the goddess of the moon, and a few others that really didn't hold the same reverence. And that's not fair to say. She was considered the source. She was, in her own right, she was the one who represented every person. Every person could trace their lineage back to her. She was the one who populated the world with her child, who became her consort, her husband. And her name, as I said, her domain was the water. And here's where I just wanted to read to you some of this really poetic wording that talked about her myth. I'll get it right here. Let's see. Before May's knew sun and rain, May's, remember, being the ancient word for corn, the indigenous word for corn, the world lay empty. Valleys of mist and trembling stone where nothing stirred. Only the great lake, Iguaque, lay still. On a dawn when the last star quivered and died, a ripple crossed the lake's glassy surface. From the depths rose a woman whose skin gleamed like wet clay. Bachué, she of the golden fish. In her arms she cradled a single child, eyes shining with all the color of the sunrise. She named the child her son and first teacher, for in his tiny hands he held the secret of renewal, of life's renewal. The two of them taught the earth's new children to sow, when he grew to personhood, and they created all these children, to sow seeds in the furrowed soil, to coax kernels of gold from humble stalks of maize. With her son's laughter echoing the temple bells, she showed them how to weave reeds into baskets, how to shape clay into the face of their ancestors. So I could read the whole thing, but you got to read it yourself. As I said, I'll put the link to this beautiful rendition in the YouTube video. So there was a point where they, they lived in this way. She and her son / husband lived in this way, taught the people, were much beloved. And whenever anything came up, they would approach, whenever any difficulties or challenges came up, they would approach the water line, and they would send in gifts and offerings to her, and she would bubble, little trembles that would make the water ripple, and they knew that she was there to help them and to comfort them. At some point, she then they decided that she, as any mother does, she gathered the people to, and here's from the myth again, she gathered the people to the lake's edge and spoke. Your hearts have ripened like fruit. Go now to build your own future. And with tears of maize dust sparkling in their eyes, they watched Bachué and her son wade back into the silent sea. And when they reached the lake's center, their bodies shimmered, first turning to coils of living snake before diving beneath the surface. Oh my gosh, did I not? Oh, here they are. And I have some beautiful images of that. This is actually a statue of Bachué. I don't know how well, she's holding her son down there. I'm not sure, I didn't read anything about there being an eagle, but you can see the snakes around her neck. And this I thought was a beautiful black and white image of her, both embodying her snake self, which, as we know, those of us that follow the goddess religions know that snakes, as shedding their skin, they've long been representative of the divine feminine, of the goddess. So snakes are revered in her worship as well. So what else do I want to tell you about her? This was a lovely thing. She was considered the source, which is why, as I said before, she was placed above kind of all these other, all of the other gods and goddesses that were out there. Let's see. This I thought was beautiful. Each spring, so that's one of the reasons I'm honoring her now. Each spring during the festival of Iguaque, villagers still gather at dawn with holding vessels in their hands, and they step barefoot into the shallows of the lake, and they pour corn beer onto the earth as their prayers, hoping to glimpse a ripple, just as she did before when she was there, a scale, a scale from the snake, or some kind of echo of her laughter. And so her worship still endures today, which I love. And it really is a living testament, a living covenant that represents her, how she brought life to emptiness, and that every seed, she taught her people how to plant seeds, which we're doing this time of year, and create food for themselves. And then she disappeared and returned back into the lake. So the story of Bachué, a beautiful one. And it reminded me, and I know I've sung this, I'm not sure how recently, but I know I've sung this chant, and it's one of my favorite water chants, that I think is a beautiful one that really captures her energy. And it goes, we all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flowing to the flowing lake. It's supposed to be to the ocean, but we have to make it the lake in this case. Not flowing lake, to the sacred lake. How's that? We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flowing to her sacred lake. A little tweak of one of those favorite water chants of mine. So thanks for sharing with me, and we are in this time. Asawe, I think. I'm forgetting her name now, but whoever I did the last time that I did one of these, was last week or the week before, was another fertility goddess. We are, thank goodness, since the since the spring equinox, we are in this time of fertility and of life coming back to the earth on all levels, flora and fauna. So we'll continue that trend in some way or another when I'm back again, which probably will be in a few weeks. Thanks so much for being with me. Have a beautiful spring.